Emily, 32, stands frozen in her parents' living room as she watches her mother Margaret distribute colorful amusement park passes to her grandchildren. One by one, Jessica's kids Emma and Noah, and Michael's children Sophia and Oliver receive their golden tickets with excitement. But when Margaret reaches Emily's son Liam, she hesitates, then puts the passes back in the box. "We're running short," she says with a dismissive wave. The room falls silent as Emily's heart shatters into a million pieces, and she realizes this is just the beginning of a pattern of rejection she's endured her entire life. Before we dive deeper into this painful family dynamic, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced favoritism in your own family. Your support helps me continue sharing these important stories that need to be told. Emily pulls Liam aside, trying to hide her tears as she comforts her confused son. Daniel, her husband, notices what happened and confronts Margaret, who claims it was an honest mistake. Robert, Emily's father, backs up his wife's story. Jessica and Michael exchange knowing glances, but remain silent. Christina, Emily's younger sister, looks uncomfortable but doesn't speak up. Later that evening, Emily discovers the passes were actually limited edition VIP tickets that included front-of-line access and special character meet and greets, something her parents had specifically purchased for their favorite grandchildren. The realization hits her that this wasn't about running short, but about deliberate exclusion. As the evening continues, Emily watches in growing distress as her siblings' children excitedly discuss all the special privileges their VIP passes will grant them at the amusement park. They talk about exclusive character breakfasts, reserved seating for shows, and even a special fireworks viewing area that only VIP ticket holders can access. Each mention feels like another small dagger in Emily's heart as she sees Liam's face fall with every new detail revealed. Daniel tries to distract Liam with stories of their own family plans, but the 7-year-old is too perceptive, already sensing that he's been left out of something special. Margaret and Robert seem completely oblivious to Emily's pain, instead lavishing attention on the other grandchildren, asking them which rides they're most excited to experience and what characters they can't wait to meet. The favoritism is so blatant that even some of the other relatives begin to exchange uncomfortable glances, though no one dares to say anything. Emily feels increasingly isolated in her own family, wondering how her parents can be so blind to the hurt they're causing. When it's time for dessert, Margaret brings out a special cake decorated with amusement park themes, complete with edible images of the characters the VIP pass holders will meet. She places it in front of the other grandchildren while Liam receives a plain slice of chocolate cake from a different plate. The symbolism is unmistakable. Even the dessert is special for the chosen grandchildren while Liam gets something ordinary. Daniel reaches under the table and squeezes Emily's hand, offering silent support as she struggles to maintain her composure. Emily's mind races with questions about why this keeps happening in her family. She recalls countless similar incidents throughout her life, birthday parties where her presents were noticeably less expensive than her siblings, school achievements that were barely acknowledged while her siblings' accomplishments were celebrated with elaborate dinners, and even her wedding, which was treated as an afterthought compared to the extravagant affairs her siblings had. Each memory adds another layer to the pain she's feeling tonight. As the evening winds down, Emily overhears Jessica telling Michael that she needs to remember to pack specific outfits for the character photo opportunities that come with the VIP passes. The casual way they discuss these exclusive privileges, completely ignoring Emily and Liam's presence, confirms what Emily already suspected. This was never about running short on passes, but about deliberately excluding her son. The realization settles like a heavy stone in her stomach as she realizes this pattern of favoritism has now extended to the next generation, and she must decide whether to continue silently enduring it or finally confront the painful dynamics that have defined her family relationships for years. That night, Emily can't sleep as memories of similar incidents flood her mind. She recalls how Jessica always received the best gifts for Christmas, how Michael's academic achievements were celebrated while hers were dismissed, and how her own wedding was treated as an afterthought compared to her siblings. Daniel encourages her to talk to her parents about these feelings, but Emily is hesitant, knowing from past experience that they will gaslight her and accuse her of being too sensitive. The next morning, Emily finds Liam crying in his room because he overheard his cousins talking about the special VIP passes they received while he got nothing. Lying awake in bed, Emily's mind becomes a theater of painful memories playing on repeat. She sees herself as a teenager, eagerly showing her parents her straight-A report card, only to have them glance at it briefly before turning their attention to Michael's average grades, which they celebrated with a new video game console. She remembers her 16th birthday when she received a simple silver necklace, while Jessica got a car for her 16th birthday just 2 years earlier. Each memory sharpens the edges of the current pain, making the amusement park pass incident feel less like an isolated event and more like the latest chapter in a long story of favoritism. Emily recalls how her parents always had explanations for these disparities. Jessica needed the car for her job at the mall. Michael needed encouragement to improve his grades. Emily was more responsible and didn't need as much recognition. These excuses seemed reasonable at the time, but now Emily sees them for what they were, justifications for preferential treatment that had nothing to do with fairness and everything to do with favoritism. Daniel stirs beside her, sensing her restlessness. "You're still thinking about what happened tonight, aren't you?" he asks softly. Emily nods, tears welling in her eyes. "It's not just about the passes, Daniel. It's everything. It's always been everything." Daniel wraps his arms around her, offering comfort as Emily begins to recount the many instances of favoritism she's experienced throughout her life. She tells him about how her parents paid for Jessica's entire college education, but told Emily she needed to take out student loans. She describes how Michael's engagement was celebrated with a huge engagement party that cost thousands of dollars, while her own engagement was acknowledged with a simple dinner at home. She even recalls how when she was pregnant with Liam, her mother barely acknowledged her pregnancy, throwing a small baby shower only after Emily's friends insisted on hosting one. Daniel listens patiently, his expression growing more concerned with each revelation. "Why have you never told me about all of this before?" he asks gently. Emily sighs, wiping away a tear. "Because it's hard to admit that your own parents don't love you the same way they love your siblings. It's embarrassing. And every time I've tried to bring it up in the past, they've made me feel like I'm imagining things or being overly sensitive." The next morning, Emily is awakened by the sound of crying coming from Liam's room. She rushes in to find her son huddled on his bed, shoulders shaking with sobs. "What's wrong, sweetie?" she asks, sitting beside him and pulling him into a hug. Between hiccuping breaths, Liam explains that he woke up early and heard his cousins in the hallway talking about their upcoming trip to the amusement park. They said they get to meet all the characters and go on special rides that other people can't go on, Liam explains, his voice cracking. "They asked why I wasn't going, and Emma said Grandma said you and Daddy couldn't afford the special tickets." Emily's blood runs cold at these words. Not only have her parents excluded Liam, but they've apparently lied about the reason, making it seem like Emily and Daniel can't provide for their son. This realization adds insult to injury, transforming the situation from simple favoritism to active disparagement of Emily's family. Holding Liam close, Emily feels a surge of anger mixed with overwhelming sadness. She knows this is a turning point. She can no longer remain silent about her parents' behavior, not when it's now affecting her own child. The question is how to address it in a way that might actually change something rather than just causing more pain. Emily decides she can't let this continue. She drives to her parents' house and confronts them about the amusement park passes. Margaret immediately becomes defensive, claiming Emily is making a big deal out of nothing. Robert tries to mediate but ultimately sides with Margaret. When Emily brings up years of similar treatment, they deny everything and accuse her of being jealous of her siblings. The argument escalates until Emily leaves in tears, feeling more invalidated than ever. That evening, Jessica calls Emily, not to offer support, but to tell her she's overreacting and should think about how this makes Mom and Dad feel. The drive to her parents' house feels longer than usual, each mile marked by Emily's growing anxiety. She rehearses what she wants to say, trying to find the right words to express her hurt without causing a complete family breakdown. When she arrives, her mother is in the garden, tending to her roses with meticulous care. "Emily, what a nice surprise," Margaret says, though her tone suggests it's anything but. "Is everything all right?" Emily takes a deep breath, trying to steady her voice. "I need to talk to you and Dad about what happened yesterday with the amusement park passes." Margaret's pleasant expression immediately tightens. "Oh, for heaven's sake, Emily. We've already explained that we were running short. There's no need to make a federal case out of it." "That's not what happened, and you know it," Emily persists, her voice shaking slightly. "You had enough passes for everyone. You chose to exclude Liam." Margaret stands up straight, wiping dirt from her gardening gloves. "I don't appreciate this accusation. We love all our grandchildren equally. You're being overly sensitive again." Robert emerges from the house, drawn by the rising tension in their voices. "What's going on out here?" he asks, though his protective stance next to Margaret suggests he already knows. Emily is upset about the amusement park passes, Margaret explains before Emily can respond. "She thinks we deliberately excluded Liam." Robert sighs, that familiar expression of weary patience crossing his face, the one he always wears when Emily brings up something that makes him uncomfortable. "Emily, your mother, and I would never intentionally hurt any of our grandchildren. There was a simple misunderstanding about the number of passes available. That's all." Emily feels her frustration mounting. "This isn't just about the passes, Dad. This is about years of favoritism. Jessica's kids always get the best of everything, Michael's kids too, but Liam is always treated differently. Just like I was always treated differently." Margaret gasps, placing a hand over her chest in dramatic shock. "How can you say such a thing? We've always treated all our children the same." "No, you haven't," Emily insists, her voice growing stronger. "Jessica got a car for her 16th birthday. I got a necklace. You paid for her entire college education, but I had to take out student loans. Michael's mediocre grades were celebrated with rewards, while my straight-A report cards were barely acknowledged. My wedding was an afterthought, but Jessica and Michael both had extravagant celebrations that you paid for." With each example, Margaret's face grows more rigid, her defenses rising like walls around her. "Those are completely different situations," she argues. "Jessica needed that car for her job. Michael needed encouragement to improve his grades. You were always the responsible one who didn't need as much recognition." "And what about Liam?" Emily challenges. "What did he do to deserve being excluded? Why did you tell his cousins that we couldn't afford the VIP tickets?" At this accusation, Robert steps forward, his expression hardening. "That's enough, Emily. We would never say something like that about you and Daniel. You're imagining things, or perhaps Liam misunderstood what was said." "He didn't misunderstand," Emily insists, tears of frustration welling in her eyes. "This isn't just my imagination. This is a pattern that has been going on my entire life, and now it's happening to my son." The argument continues to escalate, with Emily listing more examples of favoritism while her parents systematically deny everything, twisting her words and accusing her of being jealous, overly sensitive, and ungrateful. Finally, overwhelmed by their gaslighting and unable to make them see the truth, Emily storms out, tears streaming down her face. That evening, just as Emily is putting Liam to bed, her phone rings. It's Jessica. "Mom told me what happened today," Jessica begins, without even a hello. "Emily, you really need to stop causing drama. You're making Mom and Dad stressed, and it's not fair to them." Emily is stunned by her sister's lack of empathy. "Jessica, did you even listen to what I was trying to say? This isn't just about the passes. This is about years of favoritism that's now affecting Liam." "Oh, here we go with the favoritism claims again," Jessica sighs dramatically. "Emily, not everything is about you. Sometimes things just happen. Maybe you should try being more grateful for what you have instead of always focusing on what you think you're missing out on. The conversation continues in this vein, with Jessica defending their parents and criticizing Emily for speaking up. By the time they hang up, Emily feels more isolated than ever, realizing that not only do her parents fail to acknowledge their preferential treatment, but her siblings actively enable it. Lying in bed that night, Emily wonders if she's truly the problem, if she's imagining things or being overly sensitive as they claim. But then she thinks of Liam's tear-stained face that morning, and she knows in her heart that she's right. The question is what to do about it when her entire family is united against her. Christina calls Emily later that night, revealing she's witnessed this favoritism for years, but was too afraid to speak up. She tells Emily that Margaret and Robert have been planning a family vacation to Disney World for Jessica's and Michael's families, but deliberately excluded Emily's family. Christina also reveals that Margaret has been telling relatives that Emily is difficult and ungrateful, painting herself as the victim. This information devastates Emily, but also gives her the validation she's been seeking. Christina agrees to help Emily gather evidence of their parents' long-standing favoritism. Just as Emily is drifting into an exhausted sleep, her phone buzzes on the nightstand. Glancing at the caller ID, she's surprised to see it's Christina, her youngest sister. They've never been particularly close, with Christina often remaining neutral in family conflicts. "Christina? Is everything okay?" Emily asks, sitting up in bed. "I heard about what happened with Mom and Dad today," Christina says, her voice barely above a whisper. "And about your conversation with Jessica." Emily sighs, expecting another lecture about being overly sensitive. "If you're calling to tell me I'm making a big deal out of nothing, I'm really not in the mood." "No, that's not why I'm calling," Christina insists quickly. "I'm calling because you're right, Emily. You've always been right about this." Emily is taken aback by this admission. "What do you mean?" Christina hesitates for a moment before continuing. "I've seen it for years. The favoritism. The way Mom and Dad treat you differently than Jessica and Michael. I've just never had the courage to say anything before." This revelation leaves Emily speechless for a moment. "Why now? Why are you telling me this now?" "Because it's one thing when it's just you being treated unfairly," Christina explains, her voice gaining strength. "But now they're doing it to Liam. I saw his face yesterday when he didn't get a pass. I heard what Emma said about what Mom told them. It's not right, Emily. It's never been right, but it's especially not right now that it's affecting the next generation." Tears well in Emily's eyes, this time tears of relief rather than pain. "Thank you for telling me this, Christina. It means more than you know to have someone finally acknowledge what I've been feeling all these years." There's more, Christina continues hesitantly. Mom and Dad are planning a trip to Disney World for Jessica's and Michael's families. They've been talking about it for weeks. They're booking the VIP package with character dining and special tours. They've already picked dates when they know you and Daniel have to work. This news hits Emily like a physical blow. "They're planning another trip without even mentioning it to us? They specifically said they weren't going to include you because of your negative attitude about the amusement park passes," Christina reveals. "Mom said you need to learn that you can't always get what you want in life." Emily feels a surge of anger mixed with hurt. "That's unbelievable. They're punishing me for speaking up, and they're using Liam as collateral damage." "That's not all," Christina adds reluctantly. "Mom has been telling other relatives that you're being difficult and ungrateful. She's telling people that you and Daniel are having financial problems, which is why you're so upset about not getting the VIP passes. She's painting herself as the victim who's trying to help but being pushed away by her ungrateful daughter." Each revelation feels like another layer of betrayal being stripped away, exposing the ugly truth beneath the facade of family harmony. "I can't believe they would do this," Emily says, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. "I just can't believe it. I'm so sorry I never said anything before," Christina apologizes. "I was always afraid of being the next one to be treated differently. But I can't stay silent anymore, not when they're hurting Liam." "What can we do?" Emily asks, feeling a glimmer of hope for the first time. "We need to gather evidence," Christina suggests. Not just of what's happening now, but of the pattern that's been going on for years. Maybe if we can show them the undeniable truth, they'll have to acknowledge it. And if they don't? Emily wonders aloud. Then at least we'll have the truth documented, Christina replies firmly. And we can decide where to go from there. But first, we need to build our case. Over the next hour, they plan their strategy, with Christina promising to gather information from her end, while Emily documents what she can from hers. By the time they hang up, Emily feels a renewed sense of purpose. For the first time, she's not alone in this fight. She has an ally, someone who sees the truth and is willing to stand with her. As she finally drifts off to sleep, Emily feels a small measure of peace knowing that the truth is finally being brought into the light, no matter how painful that process might be. Emily decides to talk to Michael, hoping he might be more understanding than Jessica. During their conversation, Michael appears sympathetic but later reveals everything Emily said to their parents. At the next family dinner, Margaret and Robert confront Emily with twisted versions of her words, claiming she's trying to tear the family apart. They announce they've decided to move forward with the Disney trip without Emily's family, claiming it's because of her negative attitude. Emily feels completely betrayed by Michael, who she thought might be her ally. Daniel is furious and suggests they cut off contact with Emily's family, but Emily isn't ready to give up on having a relationship with her parents. The next morning, Emily feels a renewed sense of determination after her conversation with Christina. She decides to try talking to Michael, thinking that as the middle child, he might be more balanced in his perspective than Jessica, who has always been their mother's favorite. She invites him to meet for coffee, choosing a neutral location away from family dynamics. As they sit across from each other at a small cafe, Emily begins carefully, "Michael, I wanted to talk to you about what's been happening with Mom and Dad and the favoritism toward the grandchildren." Michael nods slowly, his expression thoughtful. "I've noticed some things over the years, Em. I'm not going to deny that Mom has always had a soft spot for Jessica and her kids." Encouraged by his apparent understanding, Emily continues, "It's not just about the amusement park passes. Christina told me about the Disney trip they're planning for you and Jessica's families, deliberately excluding us." Michael sighs, running his hand through his hair. "Yeah, I knew that would upset you. To be honest, I felt a bit uncomfortable about it, but Mom was so insistent." "This isn't just uncomfortable, Michael. It's hurtful and unfair," Emily insists, her voice growing more passionate. "And it's not just about this one trip. This has been happening our entire lives. I've always been treated differently, and now Liam is being treated differently too." "I know," Michael admits, looking genuinely sympathetic. "I remember how things were when we were growing up. Jessica always got the best of everything, and you and I were sort of left to fend for ourselves." Emily feels a surge of hope. Maybe Michael really does understand. Maybe he'll be willing to help her address this with their parents. "So you see why I need to confront this, right? Why I can't just let it go anymore." "Absolutely," Michael agrees. "You have every right to be upset. In fact, I think you should talk to Mom and Dad again, but maybe with me there to mediate. I might be able to help them understand where you're coming from." This suggestion seems like a breakthrough to Emily. Having Michael as an ally in the conversation could make all the difference. "Really? You'd do that for me?" "Of course," Michael replies with a warm smile. "You're my sister. We may not always see eye to eye on everything, but family is important. Let me talk to Mom and Dad first, soften them up a bit, and then we can all sit down together." Emily leaves the coffee meeting feeling cautiously optimistic for the first time in days. Perhaps there's hope for resolution after all. Maybe Michael will be the bridge between her and their parents, helping them understand the depth of hurt they've caused. 2 days later, Emily receives a text from her mother summoning her to a family dinner that evening. The message is curt and lacks any warmth, but Emily assumes it's about the conversation Michael promised to facilitate. When Emily and Daniel arrive at the dinner, they immediately sense tension in the air. Margaret and Robert are seated at the head of the table, with Jessica and Michael on either side. Christina is notably absent, which Emily finds odd. "We need to talk about your behavior lately," Emily, Margaret begins, without any preamble. Your father and I have been very patient, but this has gone too far. Emily looks at Michael in confusion, but he avoids her gaze. What are you talking about? Michael said we were going to discuss the favoritism issues. Oh, we're going to discuss them, Robert interjects, his voice cold. We're going to discuss how you've been spreading lies about us to your siblings, trying to turn them against us. That's not true, Emily protests. I just wanted to address the unfair treatment of Liam and me. Unfair treatment? Jessica scoffs. After everything Mom and Dad have done for you? They paid for part of your college tuition. They helped you with the down payment on your first house. They've always been there for you. They paid for 1 semester of tuition and loaned us $5,000 for the house down payment, which we paid back with interest, Emily corrects, feeling her anger rising. Meanwhile, they paid for Jessica's entire college education and bought Michael his first car outright. Now you're just keeping score, Michael chimes in, finally looking at Emily. That's not what family is about. Emily stares at him in disbelief. That's not what you said when we talked 2 days ago. You agreed with me that there's been favoritism. I said what I needed to say to get you to calm down, Michael replies coolly. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized you're being unreasonable. Mom and Dad are getting older. They don't need the stress. The betrayal hits Emily like a physical blow. Michael had pretended to understand, pretended to be on her side, all while planning to side with their parents. He had used her vulnerability against her, gathering information to twist and use against her later. I can't believe you would do this, Emily says, her voice trembling. I trusted you. Family loyalty means supporting your parents, not attacking them, Michael retorts. Maybe if you spent less time focusing on what you think you're missing and more time being grateful for what you have, you'd be happier. Margaret smiles thinly at Michael's words. We've decided to move forward with the Disney trip as planned, she announces. Jessica and Michael and their families will be joining us. We think it's best if you and Daniel and Liam sit this one out. We need some time away from all this negativity. The announcement feels like a final judgment, a confirmation of Emily's place as the family outsider. Daniel, who has been sitting silently beside Emily, finally speaks up, his voice tight with anger. That's fine by us. We wouldn't want to join you on a trip built on exclusion and favoritism anyway. Emily and Liam deserve better than to be treated as second-class family members. Robert bristles at Daniel's words. How dare you speak to us that way in our own home? How dare you treat my wife and son this way, Daniel retorts, standing up. We're leaving. Emily, we're done here. As they walk out of the house, Emily feels a mix of emotions, anger at Michael's betrayal, hurt at her parents' continued rejection, but also a strange sense of relief. Daniel was right. Perhaps it was time to accept that her parents would never change, and the healthiest thing to do would be to create distance. But even as she has this thought, a part of her still clings to the hope that somehow, someway, they might finally see the truth and acknowledge the pain they've caused. At Liam's school family day, Emily's parents show up unexpectedly. When it's time for family photos, they gather with Jessica's and Michael's children, but pointedly exclude Liam. Other parents notice and whisper among themselves. Emily tries to intervene, but Margaret loudly announces that some grandchildren are more special than others in front of everyone. The humiliation is unbearable as Emily rushes Liam out of the school, tears streaming down her face. That night, Emily discovers that Margaret has been posting photos of the favorite grandchildren on social media with captions like, "Blessed with the best grandkids," while completely ignoring Liam's existence. The weeks following the disastrous family dinner are tense for Emily and Daniel. They've limited contact with Emily's family, focusing instead on creating positive experiences for Liam. But the hurt lingers beneath the surface, affecting Emily's mood and her ability to fully enjoy time with her own little family. One Friday afternoon, Emily receives a text from Liam's teacher reminding parents about the upcoming family day at school the following Tuesday. Emily immediately marks it on her calendar, looking forward to a special day with her son where they can just focus on each other without family drama. On Tuesday morning, Emily dresses carefully for the event, choosing a cheerful yellow blouse that she hopes reflects the positive attitude she's trying to maintain. Daniel has to work, so it will just be Emily and Liam, which is fine with her. She treasures these one-on-one moments with her son. When they arrive at the school, Liam's face lights up as he spots his cousins Emma, Noah, Sophia, and Oliver gathered near the entrance with their parents. Emily's heart sinks slightly as she realizes Jessica and Michael are there too, but she puts on a brave face, determined not to let anything ruin this special day for Liam. Aunt Emily. Liam. Emma calls out, waving enthusiastically. Emily forces a smile as they approach the group. Hi, everyone. I didn't know you guys would be here. Mom and Dad invited us, Jessica explains, just as Emily spots her parents walking toward them. They thought it would be nice for all the cousins to be together for family day. Emily's stomach tightens at this news. Her parents hadn't mentioned anything about coming to family day, let alone inviting the others. She can't help but wonder if this is another deliberate exclusion, another opportunity to emphasize that they're a family unit that doesn't really include Emily and Liam. Margaret and Robert arrive, greeting the other grandchildren with exaggerated enthusiasm while barely acknowledging Emily and Liam. Grandma, Grandpa, the other children shout, rushing forward to hug them. Liam hesitates, looking to Emily for guidance before tentatively approaching his grandparents. Margaret gives him a perfunctory pat on the head before turning her attention back to the other children. The morning proceeds with a series of classroom activities designed to showcase what the students have been learning. Emily tries to focus on Liam and his accomplishments, but she can't help but notice how her parents consistently position themselves near Jessica's and Michael's children, pointing out their work to other relatives who have also gathered for the event. When it's time for the family photo session in the school auditorium, Emily's anxiety peaks. The photographer arranges families in groups, and Emily watches as her parents immediately gather with Jessica's and Michael's families, positioning themselves in the center with their favorite grandchildren. Emily stands awkwardly to the side with Liam, unsure whether to approach the group or remain separate. Before she can decide, the photographer calls out, "Okay, grandparents with all the grandchildren, let's get a special photo." Margaret and Robert smile broadly as they gather Emma, Noah, Sophia, and Oliver around them, deliberately leaving space where Liam could have stood but not inviting him to join. Emily feels her face flush with embarrassment and anger as other parents begin to notice and whisper among themselves. "Liam, honey, why don't you go stand with your cousins?" Emily suggests, trying to keep her voice steady. Liam takes a step forward, but Margaret immediately puts out a hand to stop him. "Oh, we're trying to keep this photo to just the special grandchildren," she says loudly enough for those nearby to hear. "We have limited space and want the best photo possible." The implication is clear: Liam is not considered one of the special grandchildren. The humiliation washes over Emily as she sees Liam's face fall, his eyes filling with tears. Other parents are now openly staring, some with expressions of shock, others with pity. Emily's hands clench into fists at her sides as she struggles to maintain her composure. "What are you talking about?" Emily demands, her voice shaking with suppressed anger. "He's your grandson too." Margaret turns to face Emily, her expression cold and unapologetic. "Some grandchildren are more special than others. That's just a fact of life." The statement hangs in the air, shocking in its blatant cruelty. A few parents gasp, while others murmur disapprovingly. Jessica and Michael look uncomfortable, but say nothing, allowing their parents to continue the public humiliation. That's when Emily breaks. She can't stand there another moment watching her son be hurt this way. "Come on, Liam," she says, taking his hand. "We're leaving." As they rush out of the auditorium, Emily can hear the whispers following them, feel the eyes of other parents on her back. Once they're outside, she sinks down on a bench, pulling Liam into her arms as tears stream down her face. "Why don't Grandma and Grandpa like me, Mom?" Liam asks, his voice small and broken. "What did I do wrong?" Emily's heart breaks at these words, at the pain in her son's voice. "You didn't do anything wrong, sweetie. You are perfect and wonderful and so very loved." This isn't about you. This is about them and their inability to see how amazing you are. They sit there for several minutes, Emily comforting Liam while trying to process her own emotions. The public humiliation has cut deeper than any private slight, exposing the family dysfunction to outsiders and making it impossible to deny or minimize. That evening, after putting Liam to bed, Emily mindlessly scrolls through social media, trying to distract herself from the painful events of the day. That's when she comes across her mother's Facebook page. The most recent post is a photo from Family Day, Margaret and Robert surrounded by their special grandchildren, all smiling happily for the camera. The caption reads, "Blessed with the best grandkids in the world." Family Day was so special today. Emily scrolls through her mother's page and realizes something even more hurtful. There are dozens of photos of Jessica's and Michael's children, but not a single picture of Liam. It's as if her son doesn't exist in her grandmother's world. Each photo feels like another deliberate exclusion, another public declaration of Liam's lesser status in the family hierarchy. As Emily continues scrolling, she finds posts from previous months and years that follow the same pattern, abundant photos of the favorite grandchildren with captions about how blessed Margaret feels, while Liam is completely absent or barely mentioned in the background. The realization hits Emily with full force. This isn't just occasional favoritism. It's a systematic pattern of exclusion that her mother has been documenting publicly for years, creating a visual record of Liam's lesser status in the family. The anger and hurt that Emily has been trying to suppress finally erupt. She can no longer remain silent about this treatment, not when it's so blatant and public. Something needs to change, not just for her sake, but for Liam's. The question is how to create that change without causing even more pain for her son. Devastated by the public humiliation, Emily decides she needs to fight back. With Christina's help, she begins documenting years of preferential treatment, including old photos, emails, and text messages. Emily also discovers that her parents have been giving substantial financial gifts to Jessica and Michael, while claiming to Emily they're struggling financially. When Daniel's company offers him a promotion that requires relocation to another state, Emily sees an opportunity. She accepts a job offer in the new city without telling her parents, planning to move away and cut off contact entirely. But before leaving, she's determined to expose their hypocrisy to the extended family. The days following the Family Day humiliation are a blur of pain and anger for Emily. She moves through her daily routines in a daze, the image of Liam's hurt face and her mother's cruel words replaying in her mind. Daniel tries to be supportive, but even he can't fully comprehend the depth of Emily's pain, having grown up in a family where love and attention were distributed more evenly. One evening, as Emily sits on the couch scrolling through old family photos on her laptop, Christina calls. "I heard about what happened at Family Day," Christina says, her voice filled with sympathy. "Are you okay?" "No," Emily replies honestly. "I'm not okay. I don't think I'll ever be okay after seeing the look on Liam's face." "Mom posted those photos on Facebook, didn't she?" Christina guesses. Emily nods, even though Christina can't see her. "She did. And there are hundreds more just like them going back years. Photos of Jessica's and Michael's kids with captions about how blessed she is, while Liam is barely mentioned or completely absent." There's a moment of silence on the other end of the line before Christina speaks again. "We need to do something, Emily. We can't let this continue." "I know," Emily agrees. "But what?" "I've tried talking to them. I've tried reasoning with them. Nothing works. Maybe it's time to stop trying to reason with them and start exposing them," Christina suggests cautiously. "What if we gathered evidence of all the preferential treatment over the years? Not just anecdotal evidence, but concrete proof that they can't deny or twist." The idea takes root in Emily's mind. "You mean like documentation?" "Exactly," Christina confirms. "Photos, emails, text messages, financial records. Anything that shows the pattern of favoritism." Over the next few weeks, Emily and Christina work together to compile a comprehensive record of their parents' preferential treatment. Emily digs through old photo albums, scanning pictures that show Jessica and Michael receiving lavish gifts while Emily got modest ones. She finds old emails where their parents discuss expensive vacations they took with Jessica's family while telling Emily they couldn't afford to visit her. Christina contributes what she can from her end, including text messages where Margaret discusses the special treatment she provides to the favorite grandchildren. The most damning evidence comes when Emily discovers financial records that show her parents have been giving substantial monetary gifts to Jessica and Michael over the years. Tens of thousands of dollars for house down payments, luxury cars, and extravagant vacations. At the same time, they've been telling Emily they're struggling financially and can't help with even minor expenses. The discovery fills Emily with a cold anger. It's one thing to show preferential treatment with gifts and attention. It's another thing entirely to lie about financial struggles while secretly funneling money to her siblings. This isn't just favoritism, it's deception. As Emily compiles the evidence, she feels a shift in her perspective. She's no longer just a victim of her parents' favoritism. She's becoming an active participant in exposing it. The documentation process gives her a sense of control and purpose that she hasn't felt before. Just as Emily is contemplating how to use this information, Daniel comes home with exciting news. "I've been offered a promotion at work," he announces over dinner that evening. It would mean a significant raise, but there's a catch. We'd have to relocate to Denver. Emily's first reaction is uncertainty. Moving to a new city would mean leaving behind their friends, Liam's school, and the familiar surroundings they've grown accustomed to. But then another thought strikes her. Moving would also mean creating distance from her toxic family dynamics. "When would we need to move?" Emily asks. "They'd want me there by the end of the summer," Daniel replies. "So about 3 months to plan everything." As Daniel continues to talk about the details of the promotion, the increased responsibilities, the higher salary, the opportunities for advancement, Emily's mind begins to work. 3 months. That's enough time to execute a plan to expose her parents' hypocrisy before they leave. The more she thinks about it, the more the idea takes shape. She won't just slip away quietly. She'll confront them with the evidence she and Christina have gathered, not in a private family meeting where they can deny and gaslight her, but in a public setting where they can't escape the truth. The next day, Emily accepts a job offer in Denver, using her professional credentials to secure a position that will allow her to contribute financially to their new life. She doesn't tell her parents about the move, wanting to maintain the element of surprise. Instead, she and Christina continue to gather evidence, building an airtight case of preferential treatment and deception. As the weeks pass, Emily feels herself growing stronger, more determined. The pain of the family day humiliation hasn't disappeared, but it's transforming into fuel for her mission. She's no longer just trying to get her parents to acknowledge their favoritism. She's working to expose it to the entire extended family, to create a record that can't be denied or minimized. The plan begins to take shape in Emily's mind. She'll invite the extended family to what she claims is a farewell party before her move to Denver. But instead of a simple celebration, it will be a presentation of evidence, a carefully orchestrated revelation of the truth about her parents' preferential treatment. As the date approaches, Emily feels a mix of anticipation and anxiety. She knows this confrontation will likely burn bridges permanently, but she also knows it's necessary. Not just for her own healing, but for Liam's emotional well-being. The night before the party, Emily and Daniel sit at the kitchen table, going through the compiled evidence one last time. "Are you sure about this?" Daniel asks, his expression concerned. "Once we do this, there's no going back." Emily nods, her resolve firm. "I'm sure. This isn't just about revenge. It's about truth. It's about creating a record that can't be denied or twisted. It's about standing up not just for myself, but for Liam." Daniel reaches across the table and takes her hand. "Then I'm with you 100%. Whatever happens tomorrow, we face it together." As they prepare for bed that night, Emily feels a sense of peace she hasn't experienced in months. Tomorrow will be difficult, perhaps even painful, but it will also be honest. After years of being silenced and diminished, she will finally have her say. The truth will come out, and with it, the possibility of genuine healing and a new beginning in a city far away from the family dynamics that have caused so much pain. Emily invites the entire extended family to what she claims is a special announcement dinner. During the event, she presents a slideshow of evidence showing years of favoritism, including financial records, social media posts, and testimonies from family friends who witnessed the behavior. She reveals the truth about the amusement park passes, the Disney trip, and the school incident. Jessica and Michael try to defend their parents, but the evidence is overwhelming. Margaret and Robert are furious and attempt to turn the family against Emily, but many relatives express their shock and disappointment in the grandparents' behavior. The evening ends in chaos, with family members taking sides and relationships fracturing permanently. The evening of the special announcement dinner arrives with a mixture of anticipation and dread. Emily has chosen a banquet hall at a local hotel, wanting a neutral space where she can control the environment. She and Daniel arrive early to set up the projector and screen they'll need for the presentation. As family members begin to arrive, Emily greets each one with a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Her parents arrive together, Margaret looking regal in a designer dress and Robert in his usual sports coat and tie. Jessica and Michael come with their families, the children excited about the special dinner out. Various aunts, uncles, and cousins filter in, filling the room with chatter and the clinking of glasses. Christina arrives last, giving Emily a supportive nod before taking her seat. Once everyone is seated and served their salads, Emily stands up at the head of the room, tapping a microphone to get everyone's attention. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she begins, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "Daniel and I have a special announcement we'd like to share with you." She pauses for dramatic effect, looking around the room at the faces watching her expectantly. "First, I want to say how much each and every one of you means to me. Family is important, which is why what I'm about to share is so difficult, but also so necessary." Margaret exchanges a confused look with Robert, while Jessica and Michael watch Emily with growing suspicion. "Many of you know that Daniel and I will be moving to Denver soon," Emily continues. "But tonight isn't just about our move. Tonight is about truth. It's about patterns of behavior that have been hurting our family for years, and it's time to bring those patterns into the light." With that, Emily nods to Daniel, who dims the lights and starts the slideshow. The first image appears on the screen, a photo from last Christmas showing Jessica's children surrounded by piles of expensive gifts, while Liam stands beside a modestly sized present. "This is just one example of the preferential treatment my parents have shown toward some grandchildren over others," Emily explains, her voice growing stronger with each word. The slideshow continues with more images. Birthday parties where some grandchildren received elaborate celebrations while others got simple gatherings, family photos where certain children were positioned prominently while others were barely visible, social media posts where Margaret gushed about her favorite grandchildren while completely ignoring others. With each image, Emily provides context, explaining the story behind the photo and how it fits into a larger pattern of favoritism. As the presentation progresses, the mood in the room shifts from confusion to discomfort to outright shock. Margaret and Robert look increasingly furious, while Jessica and Michael appear defensive. Some relatives exchange worried glances, while others nod in recognition of the behavior Emily is describing. The next section of the presentation focuses on financial records, showing the substantial monetary gifts Margaret and Robert have given to Jessica and Michael over the years. House down payments, luxury vehicles, expensive vacations. While my parents were telling Daniel and me they were struggling financially and couldn't help with even minor expenses, they were secretly giving tens of thousands of dollars to my siblings, Emily reveals, her voice filled with controlled anger. The evidence is undeniable. Bank statements, transfer records, even emails discussing the financial arrangements. The room erupts in murmurs as family members react to this revelation. Margaret stands up abruptly. "This is outrageous. Emily, how could you air our private family matters like this? How could you treat my son like he's less important than his cousins? Emily retorts, her voice rising with emotion. How could you lie to us about your financial situation while secretly funneling money to your favorite children? The presentation continues with testimonies from family friends who have witnessed the preferential treatment over the years. Each story adds another layer to the evidence, creating a comprehensive picture of long-standing favoritism. The final section addresses the most recent incidents, the amusement park passes, the planned Disney trip, and the family day humiliation. Emily includes screenshots of her mother's social media posts showing the blatant exclusion of Liam, along with photos from the school event where Margaret publicly declared that some grandchildren are more special than others. By this point, several family members are openly crying, while others look angry or betrayed. Jessica stands up to defend their parents. Mom and Dad have always been generous. They've done so much for all of us. Not equally, Emily counters, her voice firm. And that's the point. It's not about the gifts or the money. It's about the unequal treatment, the messages it sends about who is valued and who isn't. Michael tries a different approach. Emily, even if some of this is true, why did you need to expose it like this? Why couldn't you handle this privately? Because I've tried handling it privately for years, Emily responds, her voice filled with years of frustration. And every time, I've been gaslit, dismissed, and made to feel like I'm the problem. Tonight isn't about revenge. It's about truth. It's about creating a record that can't be denied or minimized. Margaret and Robert are now furious, attempting to turn the family against Emily. She's always been difficult, Margaret declares to the room at large. Ungrateful and attention-seeking. This is just another example of her trying to tear our family apart. She's obviously unstable, Robert adds, his voice dripping with condescension, making up these stories to justify her own behavior. But the evidence is overwhelming, and many relatives express their shock and disappointment in the grandparents' behavior. I've noticed the favoritism for years, one aunt speaks up. I just never felt it was my place to say anything. The way Liam has been treated is completely unacceptable, another uncle adds. No child should be made to feel less loved by their own grandparents. The room erupts into chaos, with family members taking sides and relationships fracturing permanently. Some defend Margaret and Robert, while others rally around Emily. Jessica and Michael try to mediate, but their efforts only add to the confusion. In the midst of the turmoil, Emily stands her ground, refusing to back down or apologize for speaking the truth. Finally, when it becomes clear that the evening cannot be salvaged, Emily makes her closing statement. I didn't do this to hurt anyone. I did this because silence perpetuates dysfunction. I did this for Liam, so he grows up knowing that unequal treatment isn't acceptable or normal. I did this for myself, because after years of being diminished, I needed to reclaim my truth. Daniel and I will be moving to Denver next month, and we'll be building a new life based on honesty, equality, and genuine love. I hope that someday our family can heal from this, but that healing can only begin when we acknowledge the truth. With those words, Emily and Daniel gather their things and leave the banquet hall, leaving behind a family in chaos, but also, perhaps, on the path to genuine healing. As they drive home in silence, Emily feels a mix of emotions, relief, sadness, anger, and hope. The confrontation was difficult, even painful, but it was necessary. The truth has been spoken, and with it comes the possibility of a new beginning. 6 months later, Emily and her family are settling into their new home. The initial pain has given way to relief as they've built new friendships and connections. Emily has started therapy to address the lifelong emotional damage from her parents' favoritism. She receives a call from Christina, who reveals that several family members have distanced themselves from Margaret and Robert after the dinner revelation. Jessica and Michael have attempted to reconcile with Emily, but she's set boundaries and is focusing on her own family's well-being. Emily reflects on how the painful journey taught her the importance of self-worth and creating healthy boundaries. The story ends with Emily watching Liam laugh and play in their new backyard, realizing that true family isn't about blood, but about love, respect, and genuine connection. 6 months after the explosive family dinner, Emily stands on the deck of their new home in Denver, watching Liam chase butterflies in the spacious backyard. The Colorado sun warms her face as she sips her morning coffee, feeling a sense of peace that once seemed impossible. The move had been chaotic and stressful, but it had also been liberating, a chance to escape the toxic family dynamics that had caused so much pain. In the weeks following their departure, Emily had experienced a complex mix of emotions. There was relief, of course, but also grief for the family relationships she had lost. There were moments of doubt, when she wondered if she had done the right thing by exposing her parents so publicly. But as time passed, the relief began to outweigh the regret, and Emily found herself slowly healing from years of emotional damage. A key part of this healing process had been therapy. Emily had started seeing a counselor shortly after moving to Denver, working through the lifelong impact of her parents' favoritism. It's not uncommon for parents to have favorites, her therapist, Dr. Martinez, had explained during one of their sessions. What's uncommon is for the favoritism to be so blatant and consistent, and for it to continue into the next generation. The emotional damage from that kind of treatment can be profound. Through therapy, Emily had learned to recognize the ways in which her parents' favoritism had shaped her self-perception, her relationships, and her parenting style. She had discovered that she had been overcompensating with Liam, trying to give him everything she had lacked as a child, which sometimes led to her own version of imbalance. The goal isn't to treat everyone exactly the same, Dr. Martinez had advised. The goal is to treat everyone with equal love, respect, and consideration. It's about meeting each person's needs while ensuring no one feels diminished or excluded. This insight had been transformative for Emily, helping her develop healthier ways of parenting and relating to others. She had also learned the importance of boundaries, not just with her family, but in all her relationships. Setting boundaries isn't about punishing others, Dr. Martinez had explained. It's about protecting your own emotional well-being. It's about defining what you will and won't accept in your relationships. Emily had put this into practice by limiting contact with her parents to occasional emails and holiday cards. She had been clear with Jessica and Michael that while she loved them, she couldn't tolerate their enabling of their parents' behavior. These boundaries had been difficult to establish, but they had been essential for Emily's healing. The new environment in Denver had also played a crucial role in Emily's recovery. Without the constant reminders of her family dysfunction, she had been able to focus on building a new life based on her values and priorities. She and Daniel had made new friends through work and Liam's school, creating a support system that was chosen rather than inherited. These relationships were refreshingly straightforward, free from the complex dynamics and unspoken rules that had characterized Emily's family. One evening, as Emily and Daniel were cleaning up after dinner, her phone rang. It was Christina. "Hey, I was just thinking about you and wanted to see how you're doing," Christina said, her voice warm and genuine. "I'm doing really well," Emily replied, surprised by the call. "How are things back home?" There was a moment of hesitation before Christina answered. "Things are different." After that dinner, a lot of family members started distancing themselves from Mom and Dad. Aunt Carol and Uncle Mark haven't spoken to them since. Even Grandma Jean called Mom out on her behavior. Emily listened in silence, processing this information. "And how are Mom and Dad handling it?" "Not well," Christina admitted. "Dad's pretending everything is fine, but Mom is furious. She keeps telling everyone that you betrayed the family and that she can't understand why people are taking sides." "And Jessica and Michael?" Emily asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. "They've tried to call a few times," Christina revealed. "Jessica even suggested flying out to see you, to talk things through. I think they're finally realizing how much they've enabled Mom and Dad's behavior over the years." Emily sighed, feeling a familiar twinge of guilt mixed with resolve. "I appreciate that they might be having a change of heart, but I'm not ready to reconcile. Not yet. Maybe not ever." "I understand," Christina said sympathetically. "Just know that some of us do get it." Some of us see the truth. After hanging up, Emily filled Daniel in on the conversation. "Do you think you'll ever reconcile with your family?" he asked gently. Emily considered the question for a moment. "Maybe someday, but not until there's genuine acknowledgement and accountability. Not until they can admit the truth without excuses or justifications." Daniel nodded, taking her hand. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." As the months passed, Emily continued to build her new life in Denver. She had started a book club with other mothers from Liam's school, joined a hiking group that explored the beautiful Colorado landscape, and even taken up pottery, discovering a creative outlet she never knew she had. These activities weren't just hobbies, they were part of her healing process, ways to reconnect with herself outside of her roles as daughter, sister, wife, and mother. Liam had thrived in the new environment as well. He had made friends at his new school, joined a soccer team, and developed a passion for science that Emily and Daniel encouraged with museum visits and science kits at home. Most importantly, he seemed happier and more confident, free from the subtle messages of inadequacy he had absorbed from his grandparents' preferential treatment. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Emily sits on the back porch, watching Liam play with his new friends in the yard. Their laughter fills the air, mixing with the sound of wind chimes hanging from the eaves. Daniel comes out with 2 glasses of iced tea, handing one to Emily before sitting beside her. "He looks happy," Daniel observes, following Emily's gaze to their son. "He is happy," Emily agrees, a smile spreading across her face. "We're all happy." They sit in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching the children play. "You know," Emily says thoughtfully, "I used to think family was about blood ties and obligation. I thought I had to accept whatever treatment my parents dished out because they were family. And now?" Daniel prompts. "Now I know that real family is about love, respect, and genuine connection," Emily replies. "It's about the people who choose to be in your life, who support you and celebrate you for who you are, not who they want you to be." As she speaks these words, Emily feels a sense of clarity and peace settle over her. The journey had been painful, filled with confrontation and loss, but it had led her to this moment of understanding and acceptance. She had learned that sometimes the hardest thing to do is also the right thing, that standing up for yourself and your child might mean losing some relationships, but it also means gaining self-respect and creating space for healthier connections. Looking at her life now, the genuine friendships, the loving marriage, the happy child, Emily knows she made the right choice. The pain of her past hasn't disappeared completely, but it no longer defines her. Instead, it has become part of her story, a testament to her resilience and capacity for growth. As the sun begins to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Emily feels grateful for this new beginning. She has learned that family isn't just about where you come from, but also about where you choose to go. And in Denver, surrounded by love and acceptance, she has finally found her way home. If you've experienced similar family dynamics or have found the courage to set boundaries with toxic relatives, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. Your experiences might help someone else who's going through a difficult situation. Please like this video if it resonated with you, and subscribe for more content about healing from family trauma and creating healthy relationships. Share this video with anyone who might benefit from knowing they're not alone in their struggles. Thank you for watching, and remember that you deserve to be treated with love, respect, and equality, not just by your family, but by everyone in your life. Wishing you healing and peace on your journey.